Good evening, everyone. Oh, that is loud. Wow. Can everyone hear okay? Back at the back there. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our event here at the Lanesborough, all about breasts. For those that I have not yet met, my name is Victoria Smart and I am from the Beauty Triangle. And I am really honoured to be joined this evening by three very empowering practitioners who are going to be discussing breasts. Because I'm sure we can all agree that if not ourselves, then we know someone that has had concerns about some of the most intimate parts of ourselves. And whether that is concerns about our breast health, about the form or the function of our breasts, or perhaps the way that we see our breasts and the mental toll that they can take on us. Perhaps we're at a different stage of the journey, perhaps we've come out the other side of illness, and we're seeking ways to conduct self-care. Or perhaps we're looking for ways for reconstruction, and to reinstate the confidence that we had beforehand. Now, those are just a few of the things that we will be discussing this evening. And before we begin, I completely appreciate this is a very sensitive conversation, so if you feel the need to take a step outside, please do feel free to do so. So just some housekeeping before we start. You should all have a programme on your seats. On there you will find some information about each of our speakers, as well as a referral card. If you would like to be connected with any of these wonderful ladies after this evening, please just put their name, your email address, and we will connect you. We will have time for Q&A at the end, so please do hold all of your questions for then and do not be shy. You also have an amazing goodie bag to take with you this evening with a product from Ground Wellbeing, which we are going to hear lots about, and I'm very excited to find out more. And then just a few words about the Beauty Triangle for those that aren't familiar. We launched 6 years ago now with the aim to educate and empower audiences on all areas of their well-being, but importantly from a holistic point of view, which is why you will always find 3 experts on our panels, each of whom are a real expert in their field. But we also launched in order to connect you, our audiences, with these authorities, which brings me very neatly to introduce each of them this evening. We have breast and body surgeon, Mrs. Jaqueline Lewis. We have holistic therapist and the founder of Ground Wellbeing, Peigín Crowley. And we have medical tattoo artist and expert, Karen Betts. Now that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to our speakers to say a very quick hello, and then we will get going on the main conversation. Jackie.
Good evening, ladies. Lovely to be here. Thank you for coming. I'm Jaqueline Lewis. Call me Jackie. I specialise in breasts. I'm both a plastic surgeon and a breast cancer and disease surgeon. So I do breast up, breast down, breast bigger, breast smaller. I do congenital anomalies. I do breast cancer work. I was pushed into it because when I was a registrar trainee in plastic surgery, my mother developed breast cancer. And so I went and learned all about breast disease so that I could tell her what all her options were. And I strongly believe that you should thoroughly look at all the options available to you. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Peigín.
Hi ladies, my name is Peigín Crowley from Cork in Ireland, and during lockdown, I'm a massage therapist 30 years, but during lockdown I got brave and developed my own brand, and it was at the time actually my father, similar to Jackie, was going through colon cancer, and I would go in and do reflexology and massage on him, and it was in Ireland and certainly in the UK very similar that massage wasn't allowed in spas insofar as the insurance didn't cover it, and the education wasn't there for therapists to understand how to do oncology massage and how to address a body going through chemo and radiation. So it was in that moment I was developing products and treatments and working with Sue Harmsworth in the Standards Authority for Cancer Care, so that we can deliver accredited courses and train therapists to be confident and empowered and understand the power of touch with people who are going through these changes in their bodies, because oftentimes medical teams are so intelligent and are so incredibly capable of managing the cancer, the tumour, the disease, and from a well-being perspective, it's the human, the trauma, the sleep, the well-being beyond that we try and address and help as well. At the time during lockdown as well, my brother, my godson, my brother's son has autism, so he was out of routine, and I developed Play-Dohs with essential oils to help with morning routines, evening routines, which has gone on to develop into storytelling massage for children with neurodiversity. So as a brand, while we sit here in the most luxurious spa that London and the UK has to offer, the team here are trained and work with us on lymphatics, on oncology, on vagus nerve. And it's just lovely that it's sincere well-being, not so much from a pampering or indulgent space, but from a sincere objective of meeting people where they're at on their journey with sleep, with menopause and so on. So lovely to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Peigín. And Karen?
Thank you, everybody. I'm Karen Betts, and I've been in the industry now for over 30 years doing medical tattooing and permanent makeup, so the facial tattooing. I started because I had a great friend who had breast cancer, so I had no idea what to do when I first started, but I had a tattoo artist who rented a room in my building, and I just picked up a tattoo gun. This is not what you do. I just picked up a tattoo gun. I was a makeup artist and I could draw. So that's how my career started, and the confidence it gave her took me on this path, this career, which I knew I needed to give other people this confidence. So I went on, and then in the UK we are known for the biggest, the most known academy. I went on and then trained over 5,000 people to do treatments, permanent makeup treatments, and then medical treatments. And just a little bit more about my background. Some people may have heard of beauty treatments in beauty salons. The academy that I owned went on to train 50,000 UK salons in other treatments, which is eyelash treatments and brow treatments. So just name dropping a couple of them: HD brows, LVL lashes, Nouveau lashes. If you've ever had any of them treatments, that's where I actually developed. And it all started with my friend who had breast cancer.
Well done. Shout out to those brands that I'm sure we've all tried over there. Now, Jackie, I'd love to start with you and speak all about breasts. Now, like you said at the very beginning, you deal with concerns about well-being when it comes to our breasts, but also surgical enhancements or cosmetic surgery. What are the concerns of the people that are turning up to your door?
I see a whole range of ladies, young, old. The young ones, because breast cancer isn't so common, I see a lot of cosmetic breast patients, but also young women who have breast concerns like breast lumps. The commonest, I suppose, in very young women for cosmetic cases is either a breast reduction, or if they're very flat, breast augmentation. Breast cancer incidence increases with increasing age. 50%, or rather 80% of all breast cancers are diagnosed in the 50-plus-year-old woman. So yes, young women do get breast cancer, but it's not so common. But if they do have a lump, we investigate them. We do a triple assessment, examination, imaging. Sometimes they need a biopsy if it's not just a simple cyst. In the middle age, a lot of my cases are women who, again, at all ages, if they have a breast problem, breast lump, breast pain, skin changes, breast changes. But for the cosmetic cases, a lot of women who get pregnant and breastfeed, they find that their breasts droop. And I get a lot of ladies who, after they've lost weight, lost all their baby weight and stopped breastfeeding, their skin will have stretched. If they're in their late 30s, 40s, the amount of collagen and elastin, not only in the skin, but also in the ligaments of Cooper that hold the breast up, you lose collagen in that. It's like an elastic band that's overstretched, and so a lot of them lose a lot of volume, especially in the outer parts, and so they might need a breast uplift or breast augmentation. In the elderly age group, again, breast problems, and because of the incidence of breast cancer becoming more prevalent in that age group, we investigate for breast problems, but also in the older woman, drooping.
It's really interesting what you say there about age and how you see such a wide variety of women. When it comes to breast health, you've touched briefly on the steps that people can be taking, but when they come into your clinic, what will you do? What are the examinations that you'll do to assess their breast health?
First of all, I take a history and look at their risk factors for breast cancer. So exposure to estrogens is one of the known breast cancer risks. So both your own estrogens, but also exogenous estrogens. So your own estrogens, it depends on when you go through puberty, when you go through menopause, and the length of time that you are exposed to your own estrogen, but also pregnancy and breastfeeding. If a young woman has lots of children and breastfeeds them for a long time, she's more protected.
Wow.
So, having said that, that's in the long term. There is an increased incidence of breast cancer in women who've just given birth, but that tails off with having lots and lots of children. The other exogenous risk factors for breast cancer and estrogen, so the oral contraceptive pill, exposure from maybe IVF, although we don't know if that is a real significant risk, and also HRT, although HRT is said to be more beneficial for women's health rather than thinking about the risk of breast cancer, but we do know that estrogens do play a part. Alcohol, it's class A poison, and it works by increasing the estrogen in the body, and it's a definite risk. And ladies, if you drink more than 6 units of alcohol per week, there is an incidence in the general population, but if you plot a graph of incidence of breast cancer on the y-axis and number of units of alcohol on the x-axis, after 6 units, it is a linear rise. So 6 units a week, there's a linear rise, but there's no safe alcohol consumption.
We're shamelessly
level.
putting our glasses down.
I'm like,
We've
oh
grabbed
no, we've had a glass of champagne.
Can we clarify what a unit is again?
Oh, yeah. Is that a bottle?
A unit of alcohol in a bottle of wine, depending on the alcohol content or concentration, there are 6 to 10 units of alcohol. 1 small glass of wine or champagne is 1 unit. If you have a big glass of rosé, that's 2 units. 1 shot of spirit is 1 unit. A pint of beer contains 2 units, and a glass of cider contains 1 unit. And if you have a cocktail, you'll probably get 3 units.
Oh my gosh. I'm fascinated that you know all of that off the top of your head. That's quite
Why you want
impressive.
sparkling water.
Can we touch briefly as well on the products that we're putting on our bodies as well? What impact do you see that having on the estrogen rise?
Well, we don't really rub alcohol on our body so much, so that's okay.
Not alcohol.
So estrogen creams and gels in HRT, the uptake of estrogen is so small, it's not meant to be significant in your bloodstream. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
And if someone comes into your clinic with a concern, a lump or a change in the breast, what are the steps that you take? What's the consultation process look like, and what are the examinations that you're doing in your clinic?
So apart from risk from breast cancer, another risk is family history and breast cancer susceptibility gene that you might have inherited, but in fact only about 1/5 of all breast cancers are linked to that. So after a thorough history and asking them what their problem is, I do a physical examination, and after that they go for breast imaging, whether they need a mammogram or ultrasound. We usually run a one-stop clinic where that's available.
And what can we do from home? The all-important question. I have been told many a time how to examine my breasts, but ultimately I am ashamed to say I still don't really know.
So there's a really good resource that I want you all to get on your phones now if you've got Wi-Fi. It's called knowyourlemons.org. And those are the things that you need to look out for. And every woman from the age of probably 20 should examine their breasts once a month. And I usually tell them to examine their breasts in front of the mirror. And the best time is when their breasts are softest and least swollen, 7 to 10 days after their period has ended. And if you'd like me to demonstrate what I say to my patients, I've got a model here who is going to
If everyone feels
take
comfortable.
her through the breast examination.
So Jackie's daughter is here to give a live breast examination. So if anyone doesn't feel comfortable engaging, please feel free to step out. If not, we're going to do it right now.
So what you do is you look at your breast in the mirror, you look at the skin, the nipples, and you look straight on with your arms up to see if there are any changes in the skin, and with your arms down and on your hips. And then you lean forwards, because sometimes when you've got a cancer or there's some tethering, you might notice a dent or change in the contour in your skin. And then stand up and then look from side to side. Look at the contour from side to side. And there's another thing I do in the clinic, is that I stand in front of the patient and I get them to put their hands on their hips and to contract their pectoralis major muscles by pushing down on their hips. And again, if there's a cancer that is tethered to the back wall or the skin, you might notice a change. So those are the things to look out for. And then when you feel your breast, it's opposite hand to the opposite breast, and maybe put your arm behind your head. So think of your breast as a cake and cut it into 4 quadrants. There are 4 areas in your breast. Systematically use the flat of your hand, and it depends on how much tissue you have as to how much you need to push in. But you need to push right from your nipple to the border of the breast and move systematically around all 4 quadrants, and take your time and get to know what your breasts feel like. So up and over, the side, under, and back to where you started from the nipple to the border of the breast. 4 areas. There are 2 more that I want you to feel. Use your fingertips around your nipple areola. And then there's a 6th area, which is this bit of tissue going into your underarm, that triangular bit of tissue, and in older women, that bit that hangs over your bra strap.
Me too.
And then other side, 4 quadrants, 5th area behind your nipple. You can use this, you can use a motion, but you just need to make sure that you have felt everything, and in a systematic manner, all 4 quadrants. If you are large-breasted, you might want to support your breast and use that other hand to have a good feel. So 5th area behind the nipple, 6th area in the underarm area. So you want to look for a change. It's not always a lump. It could be just a thickening that you need to report. You can put your things back on. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca.
So on the website, knowyourlemons.org, there are 2 things that you feel for. They show a hard lump, but it's not just a pea-sized lump. It might just be a thickened area that feels different. Or it might just feel like an area that feels like scrambled eggs in one area of the breast. So what you look out for are skin changes.
Be careful that
Come
microphone.
back here. Skin changes, orange peel type skin, color, heat, pain we don't really worry so much about. It's very uncommon, but unilateral one-sided pain, that's new. And usually it's more a funny feeling rather than pain in itself. But it's a wonderful resource, knowyourlemons.org. So on your skin, look for the changes, and then look specifically at your nipple. If one of them becomes retracted, there's a really good diagram. If you have blood or liquid on your nipples, or if you have just changes in and around your nipple areola. once a month, 7 to 10 days after your period has ended. And if you're postmenopausal and you don't have periods, or if you have a hormone coil in, there are still times in your monthly cycle that your breasts are softest. So then is the time to examine your breasts. And don't be afraid to go to your GP or to seek an examination.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I wish I had a pen and paper because that was extremely comprehensive. And yeah, like I say, difficult to find because we can speak so much about it and say when to do it, but actually seeing it was really powerful, so thank you. You said the next step would be to go and see your GP. I think that's an important part because many of us struggle still to advocate for ourselves. How would you recommend advising people to do that? And should they just call them up? Do they say that it's an urgent matter? Because obviously wait times can be extensive.
So there are two systems. On the NHS, if you have a breast lump or one of the things that are a cause for examination, not so much pain, but even though pain is a reason to get a referral, there are one-stop clinics and you can get a referral to a one-stop breast clinic on the NHS and you'll be seen within 2 weeks. If you can't wait for the 2 weeks, go privately.
And see Jackie.
Or any of my colleagues.
Yeah.
But there are lots of one-stop clinics available all around the UK.
Thank you so much, Jackie. That was a fascinating overview of breast health. I'd now like to move on to the surgical interventions that you're performing, because as you said in the beginning, you then refer on if it is a breast health concern of cancer. But I'd like to talk about the cosmetic surgery that you're addressing, because we all think of aesthetic surgery as something that is purely about the way that it looks, that we want to make our boobs look a certain way. But actually, some of the conditions that you're seeing are more debilitating than that, aren't they, both physically and emotionally? What are your clients' concerns when they're coming to see you about a breast concern, when they're wanting cosmetic surgery?
So it's really hard to dissociate a medical condition with a purely cosmetic condition. And I believe in this society that we are told that we should look a certain way. I know that because I had very small breasts and I lived with them for a long, long time. And it was only when I was in a theatre changing room in Paris where everyone wears matching underwear.
Lucky them.
Fact, bra matches pants. And I was there with my growing M&S crop top, and bless them, one of the theatre nurses came with an underwear catalogue and she said, "Why don't you choose something from this?"
Did you?
I was 40 anyway, and I had finished my family, and I knew that I wanted to have breast augmentation. Apart from the breast cancer, I went into breast surgery or plastic surgery, I think, to find out all of my options for breast augmentation. So, disclaimer. And I had breast augmentation surgery, but not the usual boob job with breast implants. I had my own tissue put into my breast, and it wasn't just fat transfer, which is liposuction of the fat and injecting it. It was actually that tummy tuck operation where you use a flap of skin, usually for reconstruction, but I met one of the world experts in this type of surgery and said, "Please, can you do that for me?" Because for the life of me, after childbirth, I had this overhanging apron and I wanted to have a tummy tuck anyway, and I thought, rather than throw the tissue into the bin, can't I wear it 12 inches
Two birds,
high?
one stone.
And so, bless my husband, he gave me that operation for my 40th birthday.
Wow, good husband. Round of applause.
We're still married after 33 years. So, I understand what women feel like. So when I went to see the surgeon who did the operation, he said, actually you've got a bit of a tuberous breast deformity, which is constriction of the breast base and very little volume. So I managed to breastfeed my 2 children. They were always hungry and they yelled a lot, but at least they got breastfed for 5 months. And so I know what people feel psychologically, but I lived with it for long enough until it was right for me. So when someone comes to me, I try and get into their head and know why they want to have the surgery. And if I feel that the risks and the trauma of surgery outweighs what they might want to achieve, and think about the cost as well, I'll say, I really need you to think about it. And so I actually use this scale of 1 to 10 of how they feel about their breasts, where 1 is they can't live with them, they're suicidal. And I usually say, you're not at 1 and you're not at 10. 10 is where they're super happy with their breasts and never had anything done. And 5 is in the middle, where sometimes they want to have something done and other days they think, oh, I can live with it. Usually they're at a 3 or 4, and if they have too high expectations and want a 9 or a 10, I usually say, well, expect sisters rather than twins. Would you be happy with that? And I rarely offer surgery to someone with unrealistic expectations if they want a 10. So if there are 3 or more points that I can bring them to with my techniques, I will offer them an operation, but I will spell it out what can go wrong and what they can expect in the future, because I think women shouldn't change their bodies to fit fashion and off-the-peg stuff. We should probably invest more in tailor adjustments to fit our bodies rather than the other way around.
Absolutely, to that point on body image, and I think we will touch on that. I'd love to speak a little bit more about this process that you're speaking of, and you spoke a bit about fat transfer. Can you explain the role that plays in your practice?
In a breast that's deflated or with very little breast tissue, if you put an implant in, it's like putting an implant under a silk fabric rather than a thick wool fabric. If you put an implant in with very thin tissue, you might see the edge and surface of the implant, you could see rippling, and it doesn't look so natural. A lot of the ladies or who come to me go for a natural look. So fat grafting is one of the techniques that we can use where we liposuction fat. This gives really good fat in this area, or the lower tummy. We wash the fat and then inject it underneath the skin, where we can increase the thickness of the soft tissue cover over an implant. And also sometimes if someone just needs an uplift and they don't want implants, we can sometimes put fat in over where they need it most. And we use it a lot in reconstruction as well.
And can you explain the benefit of putting fat in? Because isn't it more regenerative, so actually your body is then also working with itself, and also how the fat then behaves in the new from the donor side?
Fat is a wonderful tissue. We really don't appreciate it enough. When we do fat grafting, the fat globules, the whole fat cells, the mature fat cells are also transferred with the stem cells, because that's what we liposuction out. It's all mixed up. So the fat cells that survive will act as volume, but also there are growth factors that come with the fat. And if we process the big globules of fat and pass them through fine sieves, as it were, and make them smaller and smaller, and inject that fat underneath the skin or closer to the skin, you actually have a rejuvenative effect on the skin. And I find that a lot of my ladies who start off with thin skin, they have much, much better quality skin when they've had fat transfer, as well as having the volume.
So it's not just the aesthetic look that it looks more natural, but also it's regenerative. How can we prepare and also recover from these operations? Because it's interesting what you said about the consultation process and ensuring that your patients know exactly what they're signing up for.
A lot of my surgery is done under general anesthetic, so if you have a 3 or 4 hour operation, it's like doing a big run at 70 to 80% of your maximum capacity, because we're cutting into your skin and tissues, you're losing blood, you need to have fitness to be able to recover well. So I usually want my ladies to not smoke. I don't operate on smokers for cosmetic reasons. I ask them to have a lot of protein in their diet. I like them to reduce their alcohol intake. I get them to take nutrition supplements. There's a scientifically proven formulation made by the company SkinAid, specifically for surgery. So it's 3 weeks before, 3 weeks after, so that their nutrition is optimal. I do recommend manual lymphatic drainage massage because that helps reduce the swelling and get everything moving, the lymphatic drainage. I encourage my ladies to be fully mobile, walking around after the surgery, immediately when they wake up from the operation, because I don't want them to get a thromboembolus. I want them to be pain-free, because if they are in pain, they're not moving, and they're more at risk of a deep venous thrombosis and a pulmonary embolus. So mobility as fit as possible before the operation, at a weight that they feel they are comfortable with, that they can maintain for the rest of their life. And the nutrition. Proteins are the building blocks for healing. Collagen. The nice thing about SkinAid MD is that it's got all the antioxidants, the anti-inflammatories, the arnica, the papain, all the goodies that we need.
I love that you speak so seriously about what we should be doing to prepare and recover, because we hear these things like lunchtime boob jobs and that these aesthetic treatments are quick fixes, but actually that's extremely dangerous and something that we are as an industry working to change. One final question, Jackie, and I'd like to go back to this idea of body image, because we all look at our breasts and I'm sure we feel a certain way emotionally, and I find that really sad because we are probably sold an ideal or an image out there that actually they should look a certain way. How do you encourage us not to feel that way about our own bodies and in fact embrace them for what they are?
It's really hard because I actually had surgery, but if you have healthy, unscarred, fully sensate breasts and you can tailor your clothes to suit you, I think we should rejoice. But then if you really feel that you can't live with them, go to someone who can hear you and who will give you all your options. I think cosmetic surgery has been made into a commodity, and I don't think it's right to play on people's insecurities.
So beautifully finished. Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you. Like I say, we'll have time for questions at the end, so if you have anything to ask Jackie, please do hold fire.
Incredible. Thank you so much as well for the breast
check. That was
the best knowledge. I think I've only been doing it at maybe 30%, so thank you, and to your daughter as well.
Thank you. Peigín, I'm really excited to pick your brains because we hear so much at the moment about products and toxic products, and I dislike that word, but I think it's important that we're learning more about the way to apply products to our skin that are safe, but also that provide self-care. Can you explain the role that you feel as the founder of Ground and someone who has worked in this industry for, I believe, beyond 20 years with massage therapy?
30.
Wow, 30 years. What role does self-care play when it comes to potentially recovering from things like breast cancer, but also before that, just to mitigate our stress?
Yeah, and I think separate from products, in terms of stress and understanding our own bodies, and really stress is different for everyone, and I always say people have a different capacity for stress depending on what they've had to cope with in their lives, and I can't apply how much stress my daughter should be able to cope with, or my mother or my friend, compared to me, because everyone's had different experiences. So I always say a stress response in the body on a scale of 1 to 10, you could be driving your car or in a car and have a near-on, head-on collision, but you swerve your car and you don't crash and you don't die and you're in the ditch and you're looking at yourself in the rear view mirror and your eyes are popping out of your head and you've gone pale and you're sweating and you're breathing very quickly to catch as much oxygen as you can, and your body's in a full-on fight or flight survival mode. And that would be a 10 on a scale of a stress response in the body. And I always say capacity is different for everyone. And my mum, who was a stay-at-home mum, I'm very lucky I had a mum at home. There was a dinner cooked each evening and she worked the home and she was the boss of the home. But her capacity for stress would be very different to mine. So when she forgets to put the bins out, she'd hit a 4 on that scale, versus me with my brand Ground. If I'm pitching to a board for €2 million in investment, I'll hit a 4 because I need to know my P&L and my cash flow. But it's a totally different scenario, and my capacity for stress is much larger than my mum's. And it's no disrespect to my mum's experience, nor is it a medal that I can manage a lot of stress. It's just different in each body, how the body and the mind will respond to stress. But also stress, it's really important to understand there are 2 main types of stress in our lives. There's head stresses, which is our to-do lists. We wake up each day and we have a to-do list, and head stresses would include anything from, okay, I have to be at the Lanesborough for 6, my taxi is late, or I need to feed the dogs, I need to do the school lunches, I need to do my Zoom call, I need to do my email follow-up. Head stresses are there all day long, and some people have a list of 5 in the day and some people have a list of 50. Some people have a list of 50 but they're really good at delegating out their to-do lists, and so everyone's different at head stresses. Some people carry very heavy bags of lots of to-dos, but some people are just really good at doing stuff, and if you ask a busy person you'll get it done because they just put it on the list and it gets done. But head stresses aren't the only stresses that come into our worlds, and this is the important piece. There are heart stresses. Now, heart stresses can be anything from a cancer diagnosis, death of a parent, death of a child, a miscarriage, a breakdown in a relationship, a divorce. Heart stresses are anything from your child being bullied in school and coming in each day and their self-esteem is dropping. You can see their actual self-esteem dropping in their bodies. And a heart stress isn't something you can sit in a dark room and find the solution to. A heart stress isn't something you can fix. It's something sometimes you have to live with. It's sometimes you have to become friends with, and you have to meet the pain in your life, and you have to give it the time, and you have to honour it. And just because you're good at head stresses and carry a big to-do list and a big sack on your back doesn't mean you're going to be good at heart stresses, and that you can load a heart stress on top of that and keep moving at the same pace and speed that you normally work on. The intelligence with stress in your body is to understand the difference between head stresses and heart stresses, and to know that when a heart stress is happening to you or a loved one, that you must sit with it, you must assign time to it, you must honour it, you must decide to get counselling or take some time off if it's financially feasible, to take some time off from work, literally just to sit with your pain, to manage your pain, to talk about your pain. And I often say to someone who doesn't have the opportunity to take time off or to do counselling, that your work at the weekends is to meet a good friend and go for a walk in nature, because there's nothing more, I suppose, healing than being in nature, moving your body with someone you love and trust, and you're not sitting opposite them and having to eyeball them and tell them about your pain. You're walking in unison, you're looking straight ahead, and you're able to talk and share your intimate fears, your intimate pains, and to share that with another human that you love. We don't need many friends in our lives, but we need a couple of people that we can show our true selves to. And that in its own way is sitting with your pain and acknowledging things that aren't going right for yourself. We all have relationships that break down and rupture and repair, and we all have a different capacity to repair relationships. But I can tell you, heart stresses, when I meet people in massage, and you can feel it in the body keeps score, the body holds trauma, it holds grief, it holds loneliness. And massage is a wonderful way to make your body feel safe. If it's feeling unsafe, or if it's feeling unheard or unseen, massage is a wonderful way to connect with the body and to co-regulate with another human and help them feel seen. So it's a lovely space to be in, and product is secondary to touch. Product is important, and it is ground. It is my business, it's a product, but fundamentally it's our massage training and understanding the body's ability to process stress is far more important. The products are brilliant because they add ritual, they add scent. Scent lives in memory, our muscles have memory, and when you ritualize your evening routine and your morning routine, and when you couple that massage technique and that self-care check, when you couple it to that's real self-care then when you're coupling it all together.
I love what you say there about the power of touch. I think it's something that we don't often do to ourselves.
Yeah.
Body care, touching ourselves with massage oils and
gua
looking
sha.
after.
There's a million ways, and for children, anyone with children or even teenagers, if they'll let you, to connect. We do specialist storytelling massage for parents with children with anxiety and neurodiverse issues with sleep, and we teach storytelling massage for the parents who are doing it with the objective of calming their child, only to realise through touch they've calmed themselves, and a calm parent will give you a calm child. So it's kind of the full circle effect of touch and co-regulation.
Both parties,
Yeah.
co-regulation is exactly what you say there. And
Yeah.
we see so much science now and research on that and the nervous system and the vagus nerve and the links between all of those. I love what you said about stress being different for everyone as well, because I think that's super important. I was always told that stress is like a bucket, and all of our buckets are different sizes, and they gather water at different rates. As a massage therapist, how do you feel stress in the body? Is it tension? Is it energy? What are we looking for if we're actually physically touching our bodies? Can we feel that stress?
So I always explain this through the two brains in our bodies. So we have our primary brain, which we're all familiar with, that the brain in our heads, which is so intelligent. We know it's our operating system for function and memory, and it's in its own shape. It's a very, it's like half a walnut, and it lives in a skull. There's no soft tissue around it. It's literally our hardware, our computer. And it's a cognitive brain. It's a brilliant doing brain, and it cycles up into focus and clarity and brings solution and moves into that fight or flight mode to find solutions. And I suppose what's wonderful about it is it's English speaking. It takes instruction, and it lives in the conscious world. It wakes up in the morning, it goes to sleep at night, and it is really only thinking about yesterday, today, tomorrow. So in terms of processing stress and managing the to-do list, this brain is very important, but it's not our only brain. We have a secondary brain in our body which is so incredibly important, in that it is just as intelligent, just as many neurotransmitters, but this brain, instead of being a fixed, solid, it's a vagus nerve, it's a wandering nerve that runs through the throat and a little bit into the lung, and it runs down almost like the center of a circus tent. It pulls through the diaphragm, which is the sheet of muscle separating lung and gut. And this vagus nerve gets pulled and toned when we breathe really deep. When that circus tent comes down and we breathe into our bellies, we draw on this nerve and we move ourselves into rest and digest. It then drops like a huge net of intelligence across all our organs. So everything from your stomach, your spleen, pancreas, liver, right down to small, large intestine, bowel, right around your bladder, kidneys. And this is like a moving intelligence. It's just as intelligent, but it doesn't feature like the cognitive brain. It's a subconscious intelligence. It's been there since you're born. This brain has collected data on your feelings, and it has built a spectrum from the age, they say, from 0 to 8. As a child, you built a spectrum of feelings from feeling safe and happy and loved to feeling sad, unsafe, to feeling in danger. And you've kind of banked this data and information, and it kind of structured you for the rest of your life in terms of where you go and who you go to for safety. And what's deeply sad about it is a child who hasn't experienced strong love language as a small child or strong feelings of safety, they aren't strong or intelligent in terms of finding safe people to be with. And I often say we focus on our children in terms of academic intelligence, we focus on their sporting capabilities and so on. And yet the greatest gift you can give a child is the ability to understand who they feel safe with by making them feel safe through your own love language. So this brain is so intelligent. It is a feeling brain. It is working on a spectrum of when we feel safe in our bodies, we rest deeper and we digest fully. And there's this idea that we are what we eat, but we are in fact what we absorb, which can be compromised by stress in the body. So it's really getting to know this brain, and the part of this brain that makes it difficult is it doesn't speak English. I can't shout down to Peigín's tummy and say, cop on and go to sleep, or digest your food properly, or go to the loo, you're a bit stuck. And you can't shout at this brain and tell it what to do, but you can learn its language. And the language of the feeling brain is the company we keep. It's the meeting. Very briefly, and honestly, I'm honoured to sit next to you and your intelligence, you're incredible, and your daughter, and meeting this lovely person with Maddie and Aisling before I arrived. So you meet someone new for the first time, you shake hands, and then you meet them cognitively. You meet an energy. I met Laura earlier, who's beautiful as well, lovely energy. You meet a cognitive, tick the box, I've met someone, and then you begin to feel the person. You begin to decide, without thinking in this brain, this part of your body will decide, do I feel safe? Can I say things out loud? Can I be myself? And it's this wonderful thing, the more you trust yourself, the more intelligent, the more this will speak to you. The more it gives you a warning and your intuition speaks to you and you ignore it, the quieter and more shy it will become. So it's an incredible force in your body, this intuition, and it's learning how to speak your body's language through the company we keep and accountability. And I always say to people, if you share a bed with just yourself and you love yourself, it's the safest place you can be.
Agreed.
Rather than sharing.
Because I have to.
No, Victoria, it really is. And it's a wonderful place to go to bed with yourself, loving yourself, minding your life. The loneliest, most unsafe place you can be is in a bed with someone who doesn't love you, who doesn't have your best interests at heart. We always in this life want to vibe up to someone. You want to be with someone who you match or vibe up to and you can look after. So learning the importance of the company we keep, editing back from people who drain and depress us.
Can I ask, if we are feeling like that is out, I think it connects with these microphones, if we are feeling that is out of balance, how can the power of touch bring that back? What can we be doing in terms of massage to bring ourselves back to that sense of balance? I love what you said about the circus tent with the vagus nerve.
So breath is a wonderful, in terms of having a massage, like being a passive part of the experience, it's really interesting that in the UK and Ireland we're prudish and we're very slow to massage the abdomen, when in traditional Chinese medicine and Tuina, like this is the core of our longevity. Our organs live in this space. From a physical perspective, you want to release and, soothe the vagus nerve, the nervous system. From a blood flow perspective, you want to cleanse. From a lymphatic, you want to detox. So working into this area, as well as people, with PMS or, period pain, it's such an amazing space to take warmth, to take hands to take castor oil to, CBD. There's so many amazing, the belly button's an incredible space. Like, I'd be fascinated with this space in our body, as well as the vagus nerve, as well as the sternum, and the amount of, I was speaking only with Maddie earlier about lymphatics and the clavicle, and this area in our body where a lot of people keep their stress through their breath and heaviness. So touch, whether it's your own touch, you can do lymphatic and gua sha yourself, but there's nothing like being under the hands of someone who's going to release tension and soothe your vagus nerve, who's doing it with knowledge.
Completely agree, and I love that that's touching on the point that Jackie said about using lymphatic drainage after surgeries as well. Yeah. And on that note, I'd love to speak a little bit about scars, because we're here today discussing breast and also breast cancer. How can Ground, you've got this new cancer care range, which I think I'd love to touch on. What do these products do, and how can people be using these through recovery when they have been in a place of illness and actually want to start reconnecting with their bodies, but making sure that it's safe to do so?
Yeah, and scars are very interesting because you have different skin, a bit like stress, different skin will respond to being cut and sewn. And I can imagine Jackie sewing each little mattress beautifully together and bringing it back together. But with scars, and Jackie, you might agree with me here, a scar is a living, healing tissue for about 18 months. You have about 18 months before it becomes inert. And even then you can still release scar and build up in a scar, but really that healing time is within 18 months, and that is really important. Once the scar has, the tissue has healed back together, that you're massaging it. We use a sea buckthorn base, your arnica, all those beautiful ingredients you described we have in our scar recovery oil. But it's more so again than the product. The product is really important, it's the medium. It's far more important that heat, that energy, that warmth, that lubrication, that freeing up, bringing oxygen and fresh blood into the tissue for healing. That's the real key. And I think also, even when I'm doing massage for people, I always find, and you mentioned it earlier, with a scar and with a body image, there is sometimes trauma stored. Also, sometimes people are afraid that area will be knocked or hurt, and they've built a lot of tension around their shoulder around it. So there's so many knock-on effects to surgeries and reconstruction. But most importantly, scars, sometimes people lose sensation. Other people have hyper feeling in the area. So it's kind of there's no one size fits all. It's getting to know your own scar and not being afraid of it, and knowing that there is a power to touch and there is a power to the healing effect. And, you know, our body image, it's a bit like what Jackie said as well. And I loved what you said on the 1 to 10, and, you know, expectations is the key. And my favorite thing that you said is, if your breasts are healthy and you can wear clothing and adjust clothing beautifully, what more could we ask for? We're so lucky if that's the case. So it's really being accepting. I have 2 daughters, 13 and 16. Now they're pure bitches, but they're great fun. It's a great fun age. But when we talk about bodies in our house, and both of them are totally different body types. One is like me, she only has to look at food and the weight goes on. And the other is like a greyhound. And we have to be so careful how we speak about our bodies, how we know how strong we are, how powerful we are, how my breasts fed them, you know, just so much more than the social media and the porn and whatever else is out there. We just...
The power of touch helps with that.
Yeah.
Reconnecting with our bodies and touching our own bodies and accepting them and taking care of them.
Yeah.
With the cancer care range, can you explain a little about the ingredients that are in those products, and just briefly about the range as well, the different products that you have available for different parts of the bodies, because I think that's really special.
So depending, and they're really they were really done through the lens of someone who's been through treatment and has to come back to themselves. So some of the ingredients are unscented, because when you're going through chemo you might become a bit more nauseous and more sensitive to scent. So we do a super seed oil, which is amazing for the face and body. And you're really, when you're going into treatment, you really are armouring up the skin. The skin is an excretory organ, and chemo is almost like a poison entering the body, and it will leave again through the lung, the kidney and the skin. So the stronger your skin, and it's very much exactly what Jackie was saying about that prep before the surgery and post the surgery. So just understanding the pressure the skin's going to be under and nourishing it to that point. We do a specific scalp oil with avocado and rosemary to help get the skin, and also with any irritations from wigs and so on. We do a cuticle oil with licorice that prevents any infection entering in through the cuticles of the nails on the feet and hands. And we do a hand balm with turmeric for peripheral neuropathy in the hands and feet. But there's one ingredient moving through each product, and it's called astaxanthin, and it took me a year to pronounce that. But it's a red algae, and it's amazing for oxidative stress in the skin, which is what the skin is processing through chemo. So they're thoughtful products, they're dermatologically tested, we're really proud of them, they're 100% natural. And it's a funny space to be in. It's not a sexy space, it's not anti-aging, but it's very purposeful, and people who buy the gifts, we do a gift set called The Minding, take it softly, and when one person gets gifted it, they gift it on to another, and it's a very organic business, because we don't show, it's really hard when you build a brand that is for cancer care, that a part of the brand is for cancer care. You never want to be seen as leveraging people's pain or selling a product for. So we don't actually promote it a lot, but we find a lot of word of mouth and a lot of gifting gets the word out there. So we're very proud of it, yeah.
And I believe everyone has one to take home with them today.
Well, not a cancer care gift, you're
No,
getting
no.
the balancing act, because I knew it being a boob night that we'd be mainly women in the room. So it's called the balancing act, and it's very much phytoestrogens. It's your grounding spray that helps soothe you but not put you to sleep. It's not like a sleep spray. So it has we have ashwagandha, and we have a lot of your phytoestrogens like clary sage, ylang ylang. We have geranium, so it's very much your women sense, and it's very soothing. So hope you enjoy that. So thanks so much, Victoria.
No, not at all. Can I just confirm as well, is that appropriate? Because I know there are some very special people in the audience that have been through a cancer journey. Is that appropriate for them as well? Or is this something we should be mindful for with the product that's in the goodie bag today?
If you're going through treatment at the moment, it might be too scented for you. It won't do you any harm, but it might be too scented. So it's up to yourselves. You might want to pass it on. It might be too much.
Thank you so much, Peigín. That was such a beautiful oversight of Ground, but
Oh,
also
thank you.
the power of our intuition as well. And I love this circus tent.
second
I'm
brain.
thinking of my circus tent. Thank you. Amazing. And finally, Karen. I've been really excited to pick your brains actually for quite a few years, because I met you at an event and you spoke of your story, and it was just fun but fascinating and really heartwarming in the same way. You took this risk to support a friend, but actually ended up building an empire. So I think that is really fascinating in itself. But also the way that you really do work to rebuild the confidence of people that have been through such a journey. Can you explain a little bit more about the work that you do to reconstruct the breast area after people have had surgery or reconstructed surgery?
So the treatments that I do is the nipple and areola tattooing, and I do scar work as well. I also do when people have gone through chemotherapy, they've lost their eyebrows, so I'm able to give them their eyebrows back too. So with the treatments, what I do, it's normally that people have been to surgeons, and then the surgeons have referred me clients if it's cancer patients. And what I actually do, I get a blank canvas, because normally I've got options. They've either done a nipple share, that's not blank canvas, sorry, a nipple share, or they've taken the nipples off and they've not reconstructed the nipples. So I've got a blank canvas, so what I do then is use my artistry to see where the areolas and the nipples should be. So I'm working on flat skin, and what my aim is to do is to make that flat skin look like it's protruding the nipple. So to make it look real, that when the ladies take off the clothes and they're looking in the mirror, it makes them feel whole again. The treatments, what I've done, it just looks like their natural areolas and nipples. So in that as well, what we have to do when you do start looking and analysing areolas, it's not just a flat colour. There's lots of different colours in there, and there's like lines, bowls, little Montgomery glands. So that is what actually makes all the flat work, when surgeons have they've not done the nipple share, makes it look real. Now, when surgeons have put the nipples on, and they've shared the nipples or they've reconstructed, then I'm a little bit determined where their nipples are. So I still give them colour in there and still give them that really great natural areola. And like we said, that's where it all started, from my friend. So my friend who had breast cancer, at that stage, I went through all the surgery with her. You gave her so much support. But when there were nothing around like this 30 years ago, it was one of those, how do I do areolas? What do I actually do? How do I do a brows? What do I actually do? And I picked up a tattooist tattoo gun, as I had said earlier. Because a tattooist rented a room in my building, what I owned at the time. I picked up his gun, and let me just say, I went across to the shop. I bought a Lads Mag. So
Inspiration.
A Lads Mag inspiration, yes. And at that time, like, what do areolas really do? What can I do? What do they look like? And I knew that once I'd actually done her areolas, it felt like she was whole again. She actually hugged me and cried because the surgeons had done an amazing job, but when she took her top off and looked in the mirror, she had that emptiness that it's amazing you've saved their lives. And but she just didn't feel like a woman again. She doesn't feel like a woman, and once her tattoo, she felt like a woman. So that's the areola tattooing. But then on the other arm, breasts, is when some people have had either uplift surgery or any, when they've had implants, the scar work, and like you just said, I like to work within like 18 months so that the scar's like no longer reddish, or the scar's actually got that white tone now. And what I can do is add colour to that area. So not every client is suitable. It depends on the skin tone. So some people's skin can be very, very pale, and a lot of my pigments, because they're iron oxide pigments.
Can you explain a little bit about these pigments? Because I'm quite fascinated to know that it's not like a tattoo that you'd expect to have on your body elsewhere, and the way that those pigments interact with the body and can fade and change over time.
So the pigments is a range that I developed. So it was my own range. I was in the lab, and I wanted to make sure that the pigments were iron oxide, not just organic, because a lot of organic pigments do contain black, carbon black, and they really do hold the pigment, they hold the colour. So I wanted to make sure that over a period of time that these pigments did actually fade. And the reason why I wanted them to fade, because you might think, well, why would you want it to fade? If you've got a medical tattoo, why would you want it to fade? But what actually happens over a period of time, people's breasts can change, and the size can change, or if they've had breast cancer, they may have to have some more surgery or anything adjusted. So once the pigment's actually faded, we can readjust and put more colour in a different, we can relocate in a different area. But when we say fade, it's normally around about 2 to 5 years at least. All depends on people's skin, depends on if you're taking your top off, you're sunbathing. People don't really sunbathe once they've actually gone through breast cancer. But it all depends on what they actually do and the products what they're actually using. So I do see people like 5 years plus what come back and they have their pigment just readjusted, add a little bit more colour in there. That's for breast cancer. And even for your scar work, when you're working on scars, as you're well aware, it's a lot. I feel like I'm married to people. Yeah. So the scar work every 12 months to just come back and have a little bit more colour put back in there. But it does fade. But like I say, we choose our skin that we're working on, because if it's too pale, the colours are too pale, and we want them to fade very natural. The perfect skin for me is like a blotchy type skin, like somebody who's not got the perfect skin type. So, but I can actually add colour around scars, especially around the areolas, and it then can blend in. So that scarring, what you've got around your areola, it can blend into your areola very naturally.
I love what you say there about going on this journey with your patients, because in a time of emotional turmoil, that's actually very powerful to see the same practitioner and the same team helping to reconstruct your body, but also mentally on that journey as well. I'd love to touch, you've spoken a bit about the needles and the apparatus that you're using, but when it comes to expectations and the shape of what we should be expecting our nipples to look like, and a bit like what we've said here about lad mags, how do you mitigate the expectations of your patients?
I think, when patients have come in and they've had their reconstruction, they have got no expectations. So they are just happy that they survived. No expectations at all. So what it actually is that I will talk them through a thorough consultation to start with. So I will let them know what we're going to do, and then I'll talk them through the style, because what I'll do, I'll just look and see where they should be for their body, their frame, the style, the pigments, what we're going to use. So I will let them know what they are actually needing, and they are just happy to just have some colour in there and feel whole again.
And at what stage in their journey do you often see these people? When are they coming in? How long after surgery do you often recommend that people are exploring these treatments?
Well, as we've just actually said now, 18 months, but I do get some surgeons who literally can send me their patients after 6 months, depending on the treatment, what they've actually had done, and depending on where I'm actually working. But I will always have a letter from them to say I can actually work in that area and do that treatment, because the skin is very sensitive. I do actually like to be working 18 months later after on, especially if I'm working on a scar. But if I'm working on the area which is like a blank area, then I can work on it a little bit earlier. But definitely I get the okay from any of the surgeons that refer patients to me.
And can you explain a little bit more about how we can access these treatments? Because it kind of sounds like it's very far-fetched, and not everyone has access to this if they're taking surgery through the NHS or other means. What work are you doing to encourage people to have this? Because you've done some phenomenal work in the NHS and with surgeons. You're being very modest about your work. Can you explain that a little bit more, and how we can feel empowered to access these treatments?
Yes, these treatments are available on the NHS. In the NHS, some of the surgeons actually do the areola tattooing as well. And there's some great surgeons who does the areola tattooing after they've done treatments. We've trained surgeons as well, so that you can go through treatments, and then at the end they will do the areolas for you. But also they will refer to people like myself who does the treatments, and other people that we've actually trained. The NHS do referral. We have people who go into the NHS. Also, people can come privately. So I have a private clinic, so they can find us and come privately. But normally what would happen, it's the surgeons who are actually referring on to somebody like myself. So it's not something that you just find. You won't find it on TikTok. You'll not find it on Instagram.
You will.
Will do it. Okay.
Breast talk.
Breast talk.
Breast talk.
But it's normally surgeons who refer patients.
And again, I think that's really beautiful, because it kind of collaborates with everything that you've been saying. You're following each other on that journey. You're working as a team to support that person. And where can we find you, Karen? In London?
Yes, we're in London. I've got 3 clinics in London, Mayfair, Cheshire, and in Yorkshire. So I have a team of 8 girls who actually do the treatments as well. But even for myself, we do know other people who are in different areas, like Jersey, other places that we've actually trained. So for myself, just send us an email, and we can tell you where your nearest artist is, or our nearest clinic. But also now, if you know anybody who's going through the journey of any scar work, areola, any breast cancer, you know somebody who's not knowing anything about it, that if you go onto my website, we are now just launching what we call like a virtual clinic. And basically we're talking you through everything, showing you a treatment in action on the virtual clinic side, which will be launched within the next few weeks on the website.
You took the final question out of my mouth there with the virtual clinic. But also back to that point of accessibility and actually learning to understand ourselves and feeling empowered to advocate for ourselves and those changes. Can you very briefly, before we end, because I know that we're pushing it for time and I'd like to take some questions, explain the work that you're doing with the eyebrows for those that are going through chemotherapy as well?
Yes, so when anybody goes through chemotherapy, the best thing now to do is come to see somebody like myself or a permanent makeup artist before they go through the chemotherapy. The reason being, they've got all the brows. You can talk to the artist, you can feel more, and then once you've actually had your brows done beforehand, because most of the time people will lose their brows, and when they lose the brows and they lose the hair, what my patients say is it was more traumatic for them looking in the mirror at a naked face. So they could actually get the hair pieces, the wigs, but they could not stand getting up in the morning and looking like naked and having no eyebrows. So always I would actually say come to somebody like myself or any artist, and even if it's a consultation, let's see what we can do before people go through that chemotherapy. And it makes a massive difference. The brows themselves can just look like their own natural brows. It's all fine individual hair strokes. Has anybody had their brows done before? Yeah. Yeah. Fine individual hair strokes, what just looks really natural, like real hair. So, and if it doesn't, it's not something I've done or we've trained.
Disclaimer. Thank you so much, Karen. That was such a beautiful way to end that conversation. And I think what you've all done so beautifully is referred to this idea of the way that we look and the way that our breasts look and that our brows look, but also the way that we're feeling and this idea of self-care and taking care of ourselves through this journey that is so emotionally debilitating at times, but also empowering ourselves to love our bodies even if we aren't going through that journey and embracing our breasts for exactly what they are. So thank you all. That was beautiful. Thank you. I think we've got time for a couple of questions if anyone is brave enough to ask anything. Oh, lovely.
Testing. Hello. I've got 3 questions. Am I being really greedy?
As long as they're quick. No, you're fine.
Sorry, with the breast checking, I never check mine ever. How regularly should one check? I'm 60.
Once a month.
The breast checking, how often should you check? your
Once
breast?
a month.
Once a month. Okay, gosh, got it. Okay. And the other question, I'm 60, and they said I'm kind of beyond. So you normally is it mammograms you get to have check? They said now I'm so old, I'm less likely, and I don't get them so often. Is that rubbish? That's the NHS.
On the NHS, routine screening is not offered routinely after the age of 70, but if someone is worried, they can still apply to get a mammogram from their local NHS screening centre. Anyone can.
Yeah, no,
But
no,
it's every
it's just
3
the fact that
years.
They said to me, go every 3 years when you're in your 40s, 50s, and now I'm so old, it's every 5 years, so it's kind of a bit weird, because you're saying it's worse.
Every 3 years, and because the incidence of breast cancer increases the older you get.
Right. That contradicts, they're mad. Anyway, okay, we don't question.
So I usually recommend that women have a private mammogram in between if they can afford it, so that they are screened every 18 months to 24 months rather than every 3 years.
Okay. You see, I had breast augmentation, and my doctor said now you only need a mammogram every 5 years, so he's naughty. Okay, jolly good, thank you. Can I ask a quick question? I know we're talking about breasts, but I've got if one has a scar elsewhere, not breasts, I've got a big scar somewhere else, and it's only 3 or 4 months old, and it looks awful. Can you colour those? Can you, if it's like I basically put a hair curler on my thigh,
Wow.
like
Ouch.
branding a cow.
Yes, if you actually think it looks awful, it's probably really red. Is that what?
Yeah, it's really noticeable. And
It's not something that we would go over it so early. Maybe your creams, what you're recommending, is good for them.
Laser.
Laser.
Oh, I could laser, even at 3 months. Yeah, okay, all right. And what kind of laser is that?
Jackie's got all the
It
tools.
depends on if it's brown pigment or if it's red because of blood vessels. There are different wavelengths that you can use. And I know a lady who has all of the devices.
Oh,
Jackie, you're good to know.
Jackie is good to know. Jackie wears many hats in her clinic, I can assure you that.
Hello. I actually have 3 questions, so I'm really sorry, I'll try and keep them quite quick. So I have had breast cancer. I was in treatment last year, I did 5 months of chemo, had double mastectomy, I had implant reconstruction, and I've actually since had 2 surgeries because I got skin necrosis. My first question, Jacqueline, is for you. I really pushed to have implants because I just wanted a quick recovery. Turns out it wasn't so quick. I had another emergency surgery 7 weeks later. But down the line, if I wanted to go down the line of having the DEP or the tug, which is the fat transfer from the stomach or the thighs, is there a higher risk then of it not taking? Because I've already had like the first double mastectomy last June, and then let's say in 10 years' time, I decide to then get rid of the implants.
I think it's a really good idea to wait until you feel ready for the big surgery, and there shouldn't be any increased risk. If you've had radiotherapy, then there might be a bit of a difficulty finding vessels that are good, but the longer you wait, the better. And there are other areas that you can get to do the anastomosis.
Yeah, I had radiotherapy on the right side and on the lymph nodes as well. Thank you. I think that's one of the questions that I always forget to ask my surgeon when I go to see him for checkups. So I'm glad we got that one done today.
It's good if you have a family and then it's a bit stretched and then you probably want to have a flat tummy. So that's a really good time to get the reconstruction.
Yeah, well, I do have one daughter, and I was like, oh, this could be a good timing. And then I was like, oh, do you know what? Let's just go for implants for now. Figure it out later.
No, delayed reconstruction with DIEPs is very good, and you
Okay,
can have
great.
half on each side. And the thing is, if you don't have enough tissue, you can always have a smaller implant on each
Okay.
side.
Oh, and then put it around it. Okay. Peigín, the scarring you said about the 18-month thing. So on my left side, which actually wasn't cancerous side, I have a slightly thicker scar. How often would you recommend someone's like massaging that scar tissue? And yeah, so like every day. How long for?
Okay.
Like the more circulation, the more you're bringing to the area,
Yeah.
the better.
Okay.
Yeah, as much as you can, and you're literally breaking down the area, and you're getting it to knit back flatter, and it does its own work once you encourage it. Otherwise, it can stagnate. And I mean, I think you're well able to take that one.
The pressure you should use if you just watch your fingernail going a bit white, and it literally is massaging.
Not being
The
afraid of it.
area.
Yeah.
You have to kind of dig in. I know it sounds weird, but you almost have to not traumatize it, but you almost have to wake it up every day.
So I think I'm one of those annoying people that's like, oh, that's a bit painful. I might just ignore that.
Well, the thing is, you need to desensitize the area, but if you start, and the guide pressure is when your fingernails go white,
Okay.
and just go slowly first, stroking, gentle, and then when you're more brave, go for it.
Okay.
But don't traumatize yourself. But can I reassure you that most of the settling down happens after 18 months?
Yeah.
I had a hypertrophic scar on my knee. It settled down after 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not long
So
to
there
wait,
is hope,
Fiona.
yeah. And then my final question was actually about the scar tattoos, because this only recently came about because a friend of mine just went and had her. So I had nipple sparing mastectomies, but a friend of mine just went and had her nipples tattooed, and she said, "Oh, I've had some scar tattooing." And I was like, "What on earth is that? No one told me about this. How does it actually work?"
The scar tattoo, is that the scar tattoo around her nipples?
So she had the nipples done, but then she's had something to help fade a scar or something about. Is that what you were saying about the scar tattooing?
Yeah, the scar tattooing, where it's white around where you've got. Has she had implants or has she had reconstruction?
Oh, she had
implants.
reconstruction. I'm just intrigued about how it actually.
What would happen when you've had the scar around your areola? Then the scar's like a white colour. So
It's kind of silvery, you know the way.
Yeah.
So what we can do, we like stipple pigment in there. So it's a stipple pigment. With stipple, we'll just make your areola a little bit fuller, and we'll stipple pigment in, and what the colour goes then into the white areas, and it gives the illusion of the scar is you can't see the scar like you saw it before.
Oh wow, brilliant! Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Janet. Is there any other questions?
Can I just say, your skin is so beautiful. Like, you're sitting back there and you just look amazing. So fair play to you. Yeah. Yeah.
Chloe onto the spotlight.
Here you are.
Sorry, one more thing. When you said about rubbing them out with the scar daily, is that with oil?
Yeah. Well, preferably so you've slick.
Some kind of oil?
Yeah, well, any food oil in your press would be fine if you're stuck, but sea buckthorn, now the problem with sea buckthorn and astaxanthin is it's red. You kind of need to go to bed with an old t-shirt on, but the sea buckthorn is a really thick healing pulp, and it rests in it doesn't get absorbed fully, it rests and stays and keeps it supple, and so it's very good for it.
Any other questions?
Yes. Hi, a question for Peigín. I'm a fellow massage therapist as well. and a cancer survivor from 23. So I had a lumpectomy, and I'm fine now. But obviously it's estrogen related, which I'll talk to Jackie about after. I want to ask you, we don't practice what we preach as much, and what I've been through, where I massage daily and I give so much out, am I actually damaging myself with obviously my lymph nodes went and everything, I've got numbness and everything, and I'm working still, doing what you do and helping people in all kinds of stress levels, and I also work with organic products as well to help them. I do totally understand all the products that you are talking about today, but I'm wondering about myself, if I should be massaging.
Yeah. And if you're even asking the question, it means you're feeling it in your body.
Yeah.
And I'm 30 years, and I'm also 50 next year, so menopause kicked in for me about 3 years ago. And I remember just waking up and my hand not opening up, and it's not a full-blown arthritis, but the stiffening in my joints, because that is the occupational hazard of massage. So I don't do as much as I used to. I physically can't in my hands. Now you can work around it with your forearm and your elbow, and you know yourself. But if you're feeling it in your body, that's your body telling you.
All of my bones are hurting now, because my cancer was estrogen related. I had high ER7 and numbness in the fingers, all the bones hurt. So I'm trying to get staff desperately, so I'm working on it.
I think for someone like you who has so much experience and so much empathy and so much understanding in this area, there's a moment where you might move into more of a well-being, a more general well-being space, where you're holding classes for understanding, for meditation, for breath work, for overall well-being, versus and showing people how to gua sha, how to do scar tissue release yourself. You could be training groups rather than one-on-one, too much going into one person and you're feeling depleted afterwards. I think you're going to have to rethink your game, because I think you'd be actually more valuable to more people with what you're learning, just to hone your skills into classes and groups and community work, and charge for your time, charge for your expertise.
You've just confirmed what I've been thinking about for the last 6 months, actually. Yeah.
But I feel your pain, because it isn't a job you can do forever. It's, you know, and sometimes I look at my hairdresser and I look at people who are on their feet all day long using, you know, the body does keep score and it does age, and certainly for me in menopause, you know, your bone health, there's so many things that are going on, as well as your brain health, your heart health. There's so many changes in our bodies, and rather than fight it, we must adapt and be clever with it. So
but it's not the advice thing to do. Carry on.
No, especially if you're feeling it. Yeah. But wonderful work you do.
Thank
so
you.
well done.
Congratulations.
And Jackie, I wanted to ask you. You mentioned a few things that can cause the cancer, like HRT and hormones, etc. Would you say that actually eating or consuming soya, too much soya, can actually cause this cancer to come on? No. It was really bugging me.
One answer.
Okay. And also, is it Karen? Sorry. I've got a friend that does what you do. It's amazing. She's in Essex, and I didn't know if you needed any more, because she teaches as well. And she had breast cancer, and she started doing that after hers. And she's an amazing person. If you wanted her on board,
give me your details.
Yeah, if you keep it under one umbrella.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add about the soya? You know, in countries where they eat soya-based products all the time, in Japan, there was no increased risk of breast cancer there until they all started drinking alcohol.
Oh no, Jackie, not again, as we pour more champagne in the bottle. What a way to end, eh? Enjoy a drink after, everyone. All that's left from me is just a huge thank you to our beauty triangle, but also to our audience. Thank you for sharing some of the most precious parts of your journeys. It's so moving, and I know a couple of you in the audience and those that have been through journeys, and you are super inspirational. So Thank you for bringing all of your energy, your questions and your interest. Thank you for joining us for such an important conversation. And like I said, if you want to be connected with any of these practitioners, I think they'll be staying for a few moments if you've got any more questions, but please do feel free to connect through the referral card, but also connect with us, follow us, and join us at more events. We would love to have you. We host a large wellness festival every January now as well, so please do check that out. Early bird actually stops at 12 p.m. tonight, so get the discount whilst you can. But thank you so much, and wishing you all a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thank you.